Alex McNeil from Looking for Group. I'm here today with Eugene Fryer, who is the Director of Esports and Gaming at Texas Wesleyan University. Eugene, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks for having me, man. It's good to be here, Alex.
Yeah. So today we're just going to be talking a little bit about the program at Texas Wesleyan. Love to hear kind of your thoughts. Tell us a little bit about the
hmm
story. And I guess let's get it started off. Love to ask, how did the program get started? What were its roots?
Yeah, so it started summer of 2017.
Hmm.
I was already working at Texas Wesleyan University. I was an assistant dean of students in the student affairs area. I was over a couple different departments. We're a very small university, around 2,100 students. Um, and I was having a one-on-one with my supervisor, our vice president of student affairs, Dr. Hall, and we had an honest conversation about I just think we need to do something new and fresh that can engage students and help teach them stuff.
Hmm.
And he, like any good supervisor, but not what I wanted in the moment, but like any good supervisor, was like, "Great, yeah, come back to me with some ideas and we'll talk about it." It was like I was more looking for answers, but yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And then I started looking into just different, not even esports yet, but different higher education practices that could have a high impact, could be very engaging for students, and teach them stuff along the way, leadership skills, soft skills, whatever it might be. Through that process, that's when I started to see University of California, Irvine, Robert
Hmm.
Morris, all that kind of stuff doing esports, doing varsity esports, should I say.
Right.
Now, I've been a gamer my whole life. At my previous institution, I used to do a lot of programming with gaming clubs. But since I'd been at Texas Wesleyan, we didn't have any gaming organizations, any gaming clubs, and there wasn't a lot of gaming happening formally on campus. A lot of students played games, but
Right.
not much going on. So when I saw UCI and Robert Morris and Maryland and Maryville, sorry, not Maryland, Maryville. I started just talking to a lot of folks over the next 2 months. Talked to about 20 different schools. I talked to TESPA as well. I talked to Twitch. I talked to like anyone that would basically answer
Yeah.
an email or a message. Um, and initially, it was like this is great. This is a good idea. Let's package it and let's give it to our athletics area so they can do this.
Hmm.
So we did that, and I've told this story to a few people, but it's so funny because it was the most confusing meeting I still have ever had in my entire career.
Yeah.
We're sitting there with the athletic director and the associate athletic director, good guys, very engaged. They're like, "Oh yeah, this is kind of like, oh, that's kind of like with basketball with me." It was a great, great meeting.
Yeah.
And at the end, it was like, yeah, when we think, how'd I say it? We have a football team, we have a basketball team, and I think next year we should have an Overwatch team and a League of Legends team, and
Sure.
that fits well in your area. And they were like, "Nah, we don't understand this. This seems great, but we don't have the people for it either. So like, we'll
Yeah.
help you with it." So that's when it kind of switched to like being a thing we were researching to hand off to like, well, what would this look like if it was a student affairs program?
Mm.
So we retooled it a little bit, then presented to our board of trustees on our campus, and got approval for it. And then in late fall 2017, my job and work schedule changed pretty dramatically,
Mm.
and I shifted from being an assistant dean of students to director of esports and gaming. So that was kind of the origin story, I guess, of
Yeah.
our program. hmm
Completely. Nice. So where is the program now? I'm interested in hearing a little bit about the competitive side of it. What kind of, titles do you field? Do you offer scholarships? Is there varsity? Is there rec settings? What kind of, yeah, information can you
Yeah.
give me about that?
So absolutely. So we started a little bit ambitious. We started with 7 teams.
Hmm. Well,
That has since scaled back a little bit, partially due to student interest with the titles that we were fielding at the time, and partially due to finding really consistent, healthy. The ecosystem wasn't there for some of the games that we wanted to start with.
right.
So right now, the way we describe our program is the 4 pillars of our program. We talk about the 4 C's: competition, creation, community, and career.
Hmm.
So competitions obviously are competitive teams. We have 4 of them right now: Overwatch, Smash Ultimate, FIFA, and Hearthstone.
Okay.
We have a facility on campus for them. It's small. We're a small school. We don't have an open use space. It's not like for the campus to use. It's for our program to use.
Hmm.
So we have 13 machines in 2 separate rooms. And that way we could run in-house scrims if need be, and have 2 different teams practicing at the same time if need be. But also we have enough equipment there for the complete roster of any of our teams. Um, and we're structuring it kind of like a athletic program as much as we can.
Hmm.
There's team workouts. We started for a couple of our teams in the spring before COVID hit.
Yeah.
That won't be coming back in the fall. That will come back hopefully when we get past all this. But team workouts, academic checkups, and leadership development are the things that happen outside of the game. and then more focused in the game for our competitive teams. It's a pretty standard matches, scrimmages, VOD reviews, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I don't actually coach our players. I more serve like the athletic director role.
Yeah.
We're very fortunate in the Dallas Fort Worth area that we have a lot of esports activity happening, and we work with the Esports Performance Academy, EPA. They're former coaches from Optic, and they come in and do hands-on training and one-on-one reviews with our players and stuff like that. And then we pull it together because they're not there every single day, of course. But we
Right.
pull together the plan that we've made with them outside of that for our competitive teams. So that's the first C. And just to give you a brief rundown of the other three, so it's competition creation, community, career. For creation, that's our content creation efforts. We have not been the best at streaming because we haven't had people that were interested in streaming. We have people that wanted to watch streams but not create streams.
Hmm.
So we've been working on a lot of YouTube content to create, and we're building a stream team this fall, hoping to put out 10 to 15 hours of content every week, a mixture of variety streaming and podcast type content. Community is formerly was like events on our campus, tournaments, different things like that, social events. I'm spreading out into gaming a little bit too with some tabletop stuff. We have
Nice.
a big Dungeons and Dragons community on our campus, so we've done a lot with that over the past year.
Yeah.
A couple of student organizations under our umbrella as well. The Wesleyan Adventurers Guild is the big D&D group on our campus, and Tex West FGC is a fighting game community on our campus.
Hmm.
Um, we're rolling out intramurals this fall for competitive, recreational competitive for our students in FIFA, Madden, NBA 2K, and a couple fighting games. We haven't finalized the fighting games. And then
So,
career is what kind of wraps it all together.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I had a question, but why don't you finish off and
Yeah.
then I'll ask it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Career is what wraps it all together because
Yeah.
we're trying to look through all the previous the three C's. It's not just how can this be a fun experience for our students, but also how can they be learning stuff along that way to help them not just get a job when they graduate, but get a career as well.
Yeah.
So trying to set up job shadowing, internships, bringing folks to campus just for talks, all that kind of stuff.
Nice. So
So
yeah,
yeah,
I was gonna ask, I mean, it really sounds like when you say you're the director of esports and gaming, I mean, there's an emphasis on gaming. Like you're really bringing in students from across campus who are doing also, I mean, D&D, all that stuff under one
hmm
house. So, I mean, it makes sense to me why it would be a program that's based in student life, which is what you said, right? It's sort
yeah,
of,
yeah.
yeah. So I'm curious about like, when you were gonna go about building this program, what were the sort of goals of the program? Was it just to engage as many students as possible or to field a really competitive team? I mean, tell me about that. What you're sort of thinking when you're thinking about what success looks like for your program.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. And that's something that definitely evolved over time. I think going into the first year, there was a heavy, heavy, heavy focus on our competitive teams,
Yeah.
and kind of that's it. And that was a mistake that I feel I made. I got too caught up in the esports part of collegiate esports and not like the all encompassing what can we do for our campus and not just for 30 students on our campus.
Right.
So the first, I would say, year, it was heavily, heavily focused on getting the best players possible, the best tools for them to be successful, and giving them the right environment to thrive.
Yeah.
But what I saw was we were leaving a lot of people out, honestly.
Yeah.
I'd be wearing my hoodie or a T-shirt or something around campus, and students would get really like, "Oh my God, we have an esports program! Like, I'd love to talk to you." It's like, "Yeah, yeah, come by," and they would come by, and as soon as they would walk in the room, sometimes they would see people practicing, and I would see them looking at me, and then glancing at the other people, and just see them kind of retreat, like,
Huh.
"Oh, this is not how I
Yeah.
play games,"
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And there are some students that were like, "Let's go, let's do it," you know,
Yeah.
but a lot of them weren't. So it was like, I made a terrible mistake. So we kind of started pivoting to like not take any resources away from our competitive teams. We still want them to be as good as possible, and we've had good success with a couple of our teams. But also, how can we open the circle? How can we let more people feel welcome
Hmm.
and have more things for them to do in our program?
Yeah. Nice. So that's kind of a good segue. I mean, I usually ask folks, what's something that you think is unique or special about your program that really differentiates it from, other regional programs or programs you see across the country? What's something that's great about yours?
I think one thing that's unique for us in our region, I know it's not unique nationwide, but is our focus on like player development, and that we try to do that in game, but we focus on it out of game.
Hmm.
Honestly, I've told my students a ton of times, and I kind of touched on this earlier, but like if 5 years after you graduate from Wesleyan, all you can look back on is like, man, that was fun, then I have failed you.
Hmm.
Like I need to be doing stuff. We need to be doing stuff as a department, as a university, to help you get ready for whatever comes after this, and not just have a good experience.
Hmm.
So one of the things that we do, like a good example of this, is there's a Gallup self-assessment. It's had a couple different names over the past 10 years, but it's been called StrengthsFinder, Strengths Quest. I think now it's called Clifton Strengths.
Yeah.
But you take this assessment, it's like 130 questions. It gives you your top 5 strengths. And then what's supposed to happen from there is people train you on how to refine those strengths. There's some leadership ideologies that are based on get better at the things that you're not good at, but Strengths Quest is very focused on refine your strengths because that's what's going to make you special.
Hmm.
So I have one-on-one meetings with our players to go through their top 5 strengths. We have them take the self-assessment, and we didn't do it with all of our players last year. This is a thing we started last year. We did it with half our players last year to
Hmm.
kind of pilot it. But we go through that, like talking about how do your strengths help you in game, but also how do they help you in class, and how do they help you with what you want to do for a career. So we're very, very focused on the individual, and that is why we try to open it up to make more people feel welcome, so they can come in and take part of this. It's kind of like a come for the video game, stay for the leadership development
Yeah, right.
skills. But we really, really try to focus on that. Again, not at the expense of having the best teams possible, but
Yeah,
also we want people that want to be here. If you
right.
want to learn and grow, we want you to be here.
Yeah,
So that's a big thing with us.
yeah. Nice. So final question, I like to ask from your vantage as a director, what would you say, what's it like a top piece of advice you would give to a student who is thinking about playing esports in college or who right now is teeing up to, do the college search process and is looking at
Okay.
schools that have esports programs?
I would say it's a couple things that are kind of related.
Hmm.
Um, I think the biggest overarching thing that kind of hits on the 2 points I'm going to make is collegiate esports is not just for top tier players. Like if you have a passion for games, for gaming, for esports, there's likely a program out there for you to get involved in, even if you aren't able to be on one of their competitive teams.
Right.
So I'll look at it from the competitive player side and then the non-competitive player side. From the competitive player side, learn how to understanding how to be part of a team is huge. We have had some tremendously skilled players in our program that are great when they're solo queued, that are not as great when they're on a team.
Mm-hmm.
You can't always lean on all your tricks that you normally use when you're climbing ladder in a team environment because the team is working on a strategy. Whereas you might go rogue and go off and do your own thing and find success. That might not work with a team. So understanding how to be on a team is huge because even if you still have that individual skill, learning how to adapt to the group and then adapt to like sometimes maybe it's like, hey, you got to go off and do your own thing now while we're working on this. Like that flexibility is key for competitive players. And the big thing for non-competitive players is, and it kind of is like the umbrella topic too, but like find understanding that you can have a career in esports and gaming. So finding a school that will let you refine skills that you have or develop skills that you don't have to help you get that career.
Hmm.
Pretty much any job you can think of exists in the esports and gaming space. Like somebody with a graduated top of their class with an accounting degree can work for an esports org
Hmm.
or a game developer. They might not be looking for that kind of person without a passion for gaming though.
Right.
So marrying those two things, the academic and the passion together, I think is huge. And I think there's a place for a lot of those students at programs across the country.
Yeah.
So don't be discouraged if you're not a top tier gamer, but you're looking for a collegiate program. Just find
Nice.
one that fits your
Yeah.
needs.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Eugene, for being here today. I really, really
Yeah,
appreciate
no
it.
problem.
Yeah,
Thank you
this
for
was
having me,
great.
man.